And when we started upGrad 2014-15 में, the big problem that I was seeing was that large market but not too many great products coming out. So took advantage of that and started a journey of upGrad.
और उससे पहले भी आपने IIT और ISB भी किया हुआ है।
उससे पहले IIT और
पढ़ाई बहुत पसंद है आपको।
तो स्कूल में किसी ने बोला कि एक IIT करके कुछ होता है तो करो, बिकॉज तुमको मैथ पसंद है। तो मैंने बोला ठीक है, इंजीनियरिंग करते हैं। इंजीनियरिंग के बाद जब खत्म हुआ तो बोला कंसल्टिंग बहुत बड़ा चीज़ है। तो हाँ कंसल्टिंग करते हैं। फिर बोला MBA करना चाहिए, MBA करो। फिर उसके प्राइवेट इक्विटी VC करो, वो करो। फिर देन बाय द टाइम एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप बहुत बड़ा हो गया तो तुमको स्टार्टअप करना चाहिए। तो मैंने माई लाइफ हैज़ बीन कंप्लीट हर्ड मेंटालिटी, जो भी ट्रेंड में है मैं वही कर रहा हूँ।
You have to do a lot of things. Have to select the university. 4,000 higher education institutes are there. You have to come down to 8 or 10. How do you go through the process for each one? SOPs, LORs किधर से लेना है, किसके पास से?
LOR क्या होता है?
Letter of recommendation.
और SOP?
Statement of purpose.
एक पर्पस देके जाना होता है।
That
बिना पर्पस नहीं जा सकते ऐसे ही। अरे भाई सीखने के लिए जा रहे, पर्पस नहीं पता है।
people don't realize all of these things till they actually go through the grind.
थोड़ा लोग लिखते क्या हैं?
बहुत कुछ लिखते हैं, मतलब
गलत भी लिख के आते हैं, तुम ठीक कर दो।
बकवास भी लिखते हैं।
तो व्हाट आर सम कॉमन मिस्टेक्स?
कॉमन मिस्टेक्स तो यार गलत यूनिवर्सिटी का नाम लिख देने का, लाइक दैट इज द स्टूपिडेस्ट मिस्टेक है यार। कॉमन मतलब एक का बनाया तुमने, वही सब कॉपी पेस्ट करके सबको लिख दिया।
कितना पैसा लगता है ये जाके बाहर पढ़ाई करने में?
You know, there are courses, for example, in US, if you're going to top Ivy colleges and doing MBAs or engineering colleges, it can, cost upwards of maybe, ranging from 40-50 lakhs to even 1 CR for that course, like per year basis. There is the other expenses as well. So roughly, if you're going outside, 50% of your cost would be towards the education, and the rest would be, the other stuff in terms of your rental cost, in terms of the, other costs, living expenses, travel, food, everything else included.
Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Superleap podcast. Superleap podcast is a podcast about sales and marketing. And we get guests from different industries and we try to talk to them and understand the challenges they face in their growth journeys, in their sales and marketing journeys. Superleap, by the way, is a sales CRM platform powered by AI. It's launching very, very soon, so keep an eye out for that. Today, the topic is foreign education. It's a booming industry. A lot of people from India want to go abroad and study, and a lot of startups have come up in this space. So we have 3 very eminent guests from the industry. We have Mr. Mayank Kumar, who is the co-founder and MD of upGrad. We have Mr. Sumeet Jain, who is the co-founder of Yocket, and we have Saurabh Goel, who is the co-founder and CEO of Amber. So today we'll have a very fruitful conversation, hopefully interesting, and hopefully you get to learn something. Before we go forward, if all of you could a little bit explain your journey and what your companies do, starting with Mayank.
Okay, perfect. No, 5th episode. That's a long journey already for you guys. But no, it's a pleasure to be here. So again, just quick background. I've been in education for my entire life. So I think somebody asked me some question that, look, why did you start upGrad? And my answer was I did not know anything else. So because I did not know anything else, and therefore I had to do something in education itself. So upGrad, we have been running for the last 10 years, close to 10 years. It's in online higher education space, anything which is post K through 12. Focuses a lot on college students, working adults, and therefore study abroad and foreign education is a very integral part of it. The broad thesis that we are chasing is that skills will get redundant. You will have to constantly upskill and continue to sort of be a lifelong learner. And that's the journey that we have taken. So far, we have about 4,000 odd employees across multiple offices, 10 million plus learners. 80% is in India, 20% international. But step by step, as I said, every day is a starting step itself. So, but slowly we are trying to build something meaningful for people to help them in their career journey.
Got it. Sorry, आपने बोला कि you have your whole life you have been in education.
Yeah.
थोड़ा सा बताओ ना उसके बारे में कि
नहीं, so इससे पहले before upGrad, I was in a VC fund. So हम लोग Series B, Series C level companies पे invest कर रहे थे. So it's a company called Bertelsmann, which owns Penguin, Random House, Fremantle Media, RTL, etc., etc. So like many media companies, they were finding issues. So education happens to be the best next step. So I was trying to help them invest in education sector. And before that, I was consulting in the education sector. So now that was an interesting thing at Parthenon because a lot of my work there ended up being not for Indian clients. We started in 2009 or so, 8, 9. And a lot of work happened in China, Middle East, Southeast Asia, Brazil, Australia, etc. So मैंने इंडिया में कुछ काम नहीं किया. And having done that, then there was a realization कि यार इंडिया में there's enough scope, there's enough market. And when we started upGrad 2014-15 में, the big problem that I was seeing was that large market but not too many great products coming out, not too many solid founders being there. So took advantage of that and started a journey of upGrad, having done only education, nothing else.
और उससे पहले भी आपने IIT और ISB भी किया हुआ है।
उससे पहले IIT और
अब
ISB
पढ़ाई
किया
बहुत
था।
पसंद है आपको।
पढ़ाई पता नहीं गलती से आ गया था।
Education.
नहीं, उसका ही मैं बोलता हूँ कि इट्स अ कंप्लीट हर्ड मेंटालिटी। तो स्कूल में किसी ने बोला कि एक IIT करके कुछ होता है तो करो, बिकॉज तुमको मैथ पसंद है। तो मैंने बोला ठीक है, इंजीनियरिंग करते हैं। इंजीनियरिंग के बाद जब खत्म हुआ तब बोला कंसल्टिंग बहुत बड़ा चीज़ है। तो मैंने बोला कंसल्टिंग करते हैं। फिर बोला MBA करना चाहिए, MBA करो। फिर उसके बाद प्राइवेट इक्विटी VC करो, वो करो। फिर देन बाय द टाइम एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप बहुत बड़ा हो गया तो तुमको स्टार्टअप करना चाहिए। तो मैंने लाइक माई लाइफ हैज़ बीन कंप्लीट हर्ड मेंटालिटी। जो भी ट्रेंड में है मैं वही कर रहा हूँ। एंड माई अदर थिंग इज दैट ऑल ऑफ दैट हैज़ हैपेंड नॉट बाय चॉइस बट बाय एक्सीडेंट। तो कुछ भी अपने आप चोजन नहीं था, बट धीरे धीरे एक्शन करते करते स्टेप बाय स्टेप बनता रहा धीरे धीरे।
Amazing. Sorry, one last thing I want to know. What is the secret of your youth?
सीक्रेट ऑफ माई
Yeah, you look younger
अभी-
than all three of us.
अभी सुबह में मेरे लड़के ने बोला कि सो मच ग्रे हेयर दैट यू आर हैविंग। No, there's no secret of the youth. It is there is enough. I think the secret of the youth is all the people working at upGrad, because I think they do most of the work. So therefore, there's not that much that you need to sort of worry about. Hopefully, that is correct.
Got it.
Well
But no, I think it's not. It is a miss. I mean, अभी कलर करना शुरू नहीं किया, but maybe after
Yeah.
coloring it will
Oh,
look
this is
better.
वो कैप्टन वर्ल्ड कप जीतने का जो स्पीच देता है, सबने बहुत अच्छा खेला। Awesome. Thank you so much. सुमित, थोड़ा बताओ तुम्हारा जर्नी कैसा रहा, कैसे स्टार्ट किए?
मेरा बहुत बोरिंग जर्नी है। आई हैव बॉर्न ब्रॉट अप एजुकेशन सब कुछ बॉम्बे में ही है। रह भी रहा हूँ बॉम्बे में, पॉडकास्ट भी हम बॉम्बे में ही कर रहे हैं। सो एवरीथिंग हैज़ बीन इन बॉम्बे। आई हैव नॉट स्टडीड अ लॉट। इंजीनियरिंग क्या नॉर्मली लाइक अगेन हर्ड मेंटालिटी। कॉलेज में मार्क्स आए, मार्क्स से यू गो डू इंजीनियरिंग। ओके, डिड इंजीनियरिंग। उसके बाद आई थिंक रियलाइज इट क्वाइट सून कि यार लाइफ वेस्ट हो रही है, मज़ा आ नहीं रहा है इंजीनियरिंग में। And again, tabhi startup and all was not that cool. This was 2009-10 when we were like friends thinking कि कुछ करते हैं time से, let's do something productive. So we started website बनाते हैं. So I've never had any kind of formal work experience. Directly out of college, we started our own thing. So while we were in college, we started Stupid Shit. That was the first thing. And Stupid Shit started getting good traction. Again, all of that was talking to people, understanding.
Stupid Shit करता क्या था?
College reviews, simple as that.
You used to review colleges.
Review college from students' experiences. Again,
Got it.
not के बाकी mandatory disclosure में जो मिलता था उसमें तुमको ये नहीं मिलता था crowd कैसा है, attendance का क्या scene होता है, how is the culture of the place and वो सब। तो we used to review people, ask students only कि भाई तुम बताओ तुमको कैसा लग रहा है। And that's what led to building different products also. We constantly were in touch with students. After graduation, people had different options. Either go for an MBA, go for a MS, go for a work. But again, after working also, either go for an MBA or MS. No one stopped at that thing. So we realized that MS space was a very, what you can say, there was nothing available there, very obscure, and again was just rising at that time. We saw a lot of students asking us about that, and that's where we had one segment on the website called as MS in US, and we saw great traction there. मतलब हम reach out तो खाली 2-3 cities में कर रहे थे और traction की जगह से आ रहा था।
MS क्या है, मतलब
Masters of Science।
Master of Science only?
हाँ।
जैसे अपना BSc MSc होता है।
हाँ, मास्टर।
Okay.
So वही लोग जो कर रहे थे, they were going for MS. So then we realized that
तुमने क्या
इसको
पूरा एजुकेशन छोड़ दिया?
मैं बीटेक के बाद मैं देखा ही
बिल्कुल
नहीं।
छोड़ ही
उसे।
दिया एकदम।
छोड़ दिया।
MS भी तुम्हें पूछ रहा
मुझे नहीं पता है क्या है।
तो GRE का किताब तो लिया होगा वहाँ पे?
नहीं, मैं फर्स्ट ईयर में ही छोड़ दिया था मेंटली तो।
मेरे लिए सेकेंड ईयर में हुआ था वो। हाँ, but yeah, so then we rebranded that one segment into Yocket, and then that we built out a whole product around that.
Wow. So basically, you help the students who are applying. With
So
the
we started
application
Yocket as a more like a community based approach वहाँ पे people were helping each other, building up tools around it. Also इसमें बहुत obscurity होता है। The Eastern education system is very different from Western education system, the application itself. तो उसमें we realized that people were so indexed on one single score कि यार तुमको JEE में स्कोर कितना आया, तुमको CAT में स्कोर कितना आया, and that was make or break for their admission, which they used to think the same thing for GRE also, but was not the same thing. So we build out tools and stuff around that. Okay, how do you go about these applications? So we collected a lot of data from students to help them understand okay, what is there in their profile, what lacks in their profile. until I think till 2019 we didn't do any individual counseling. Was all completely on product, everything. Then after that that was again from students we were getting. Hamara sub driven is from student. Whatever they ask we give them, bas nothing here. So they used to ask us for help, and that's where we started with counseling.
पर पैसा कौन देता है?
अभी स्टूडेंट देता है.
स्टूडेंट देता है.
हाँ, पहले we used to, that's what, like before this again वो प्रॉब्लम वही था कि we had to figure out कि कौन देगा इसके लिए पैसा. So simplest approach was get advertisements, whoever was interested in it. So again our model was more advertisement prior. Various different companies would advertise, because again this was a very expensive affair. So student would spend at a lot of places. So there are a lot of people who would want to grab the student. Yeah.
Got it. Amazing. Superb. सौरभ, तुम 2014 में केमिकल इंजीनियरिंग करने के बाद कैसे आ गए ये लाइन में, हमको थोड़ा बताओ.
So after that, I ended up at housing.com. So that itself was like a different story altogether, because in college days itself मैंने एक startup किया था, and that's when I got understanding कि यार ये बढ़िया चीज़ है. This is something that I can pursue. So it was like building. It was sort of like a Kickstarter for India. It didn't became very big, but we ended up getting acquired by Let's Venture.
Okay.
So वहाँ से थोड़ा सा एक understanding आया about
कॉलेज में acquire हो गया.
Acquire जो भी आप बोलो. It was like
बना?
कुछ नहीं बना. We got an internship. जो थर्ड ईयर में एक मैंडेटरी इंटर्नशिप होती है, वो केमिकल में नहीं लग रही थी, तो फिर मैंने वहाँ पे इंटर्नशिप कर ली. So that was like कि ठीक है. I mean it's a decent culmination of whatever it was. But I think that gave a good understanding कि अच्छा, this is something that I can pursue. And there's where my passion lies. So didn't take up chemical after that. So I thought कि startups में कुछ करते हैं. So that's when I applied in housing and got into housing. And in fact that was a very interesting time for startups. Probably पहली बार जब एक startup ecosystem at scale India में create हो रहा था. This was when housing was there. Like in Powai itself you had couple of startups like Topper was there, and you had Tiny Owl, and then Flipkart and all were in Bangalore. So ended up at housing. Yeah.
उस समय तो ओला भी इधर ही.
Yes. So got into housing, spent, I think couple of startups were here. So spent 1 year at housing. Again, एक ही साल नौकरी की अभी तक. उसके बाद फिर it's always been like, doing something of my own. In housing, did product and tech, learned a lot about, that skill. But apart from that, more about कि यार लोग, how these young founders are creating companies in their 20s, what that process is, what that drive is. I think that was very transformative for me, like getting into housing. And so that happened. Like from there, built a good network as well. After housing, did one startup that didn't work out. We were building something like Urban Club for beauty services, at-home beauty services.
पर वो तो Urban Club खुद ही कर लिया.
तो वो eventually कर लिया, but उस time पे फिर it was, I think काफ़ी ज़्यादा startups उसके आ भी रहे थे. It was like a sort of a hyper local Uber for everything, like people are doing. So I think that was a herd mentality that we were caught into. But I mean there was a business brain as well कि यार अच्छा, in Bombay we've seen women spend a lot on beauty, and probably that's where a business can be made. But did that for 1 year. It was a very tough business to be in, like operations heavy, very less tech, in that, and considering we were all techies, so probably we didn't see our skill getting utilized there. So took a call of shutting that business down, and this was around.
उसमें पैसा बना?
नहीं, कुछ भी नहीं.
ठीक है, तो दो स्टार्टअप तुमने कर लिया.
Yes.
बस अब तक बस नौकरी से पैसा बनाया.
Yes.
ठीक है.
उसके बाद and probably that's when I started getting a pushback from my family as well कि क्या कर रहा है भाई तू लाइफ के साथ, मतलब it's just so turbulent in the initial days itself. Why not just settle down and all? But after that, I shutting that startup down, I got a bit of time at my hands कि चलो अब next क्या करते हैं. And that's when I thought of studying and going for masters in US or MS in US. Probably I would have been one of the person who visited Stupid Sid. So talked to a lot of friends. I from IIT network itself, a lot of students were, or a lot of friends were in the US for their masters. So had that dream कि वहाँ जाके वहाँ पे will get a job in, let's say, big tech or something. So that's when I got in touch with these friends, understood the whole process of applying to these universities and all. And that's when this thing came across where someone just shared कि यार accommodation ढूंढना बहुत difficult है यहाँ पे, right? So that's when this problem came to me, and I just interested and helped this friend out. Now the thing is that I had worked in housing.com, so I knew about this problem and how this was getting solved. And in Bombay, the other thing is in Bombay, I had done house hunting 2-3 times, wherein I had like 10-15 broker contacts on my speed dial, like, because I had changed places 2-3 times. So I knew about the house hunting journey as well. So combining these two, I thought, probably this can be applied here. So, so this is back in 2016. So, I just, I had time. So I just started helping friends out. And what I understood is that I could make a, sort of a side income out of it. Because I got in touch with a couple of brokers in the US, and I had, these friends, and I would just connect them and get $500 as a brokerage in between. So this was pure jugaad at play. So this was pure jugaad at play because, literally I was broke at that time. I just done 1 year in housing and then, that startup didn't work out. So I was just like, doing it for survival. So that happened, and for 3 years, it was completely like a side hustle. Amber didn't exist like as a company. It was just like, 10 people just, helping students acting like brokers.
Amazing.
One interesting thing that I remember happened back then, because we were doing this thing, I checked my Truecaller, my name was changed to Saurabh Broker. And my other co-founder's name was also Madhur Broker, because people are just saving it like, isko call kar do, US mein ghar dila de. So that was, so that's what happened back then. And, I would remember my, friends coming directly to our apartment, and we would help them, book accommodation in person, and they will give us cash because there was no working payment gateway. So all of that was that. But yeah, between those 3 years, it was like a very sort of hustly kind of period. I won't say it was like a typical startup journey that you see, that you have an idea, you approach an investor, you get funding, you hire people. I think it was quite the opposite. After 2018-19 is when things scaled, and now, Amber is where
But तुम उस टाइम पे बस इसी से पैसा कमाते थे कि और कोई नौकरी भी था?
So this was the core source of income. Then we, did work on 2-3 ideas, but that was all on कि इससे कुछ startup अगर बनेगा तो बनेगा, but it was not a source of income. This was the only source of income for us. Cut to like where we are now. So, at Amber, we are like a long-term accommodation booking platform, for students, helping students not only, find accommodations, but book accommodations as well. Without the hassle of paperwork, any cumbersome agreements, or any, payment process, which is in a lot of times it's broken as well. So you can call us sort of a booking.com for long-term rentals, starting with students. So that's what we are doing at Amber.
Amazing.
So yeah, that's
Great journey.
How, the journey has been.
Wow. Amazing, dude. Friends, if you're enjoying this episode, then please subscribe to this channel for more such episodes. We'll be doing a lot more of this. We'll be talking to a lot of people. So subscribe and press the bell icon to stay updated. So whenever a new episode comes, you can watch and enjoy. Before I go forward, just want to clarify one more thing. Before the recording started, I was talking, and you said you don't think upGrad is a edtech or a startup. So just for the audience, if you can say why you think so.
No, I think, look, usually what ends up happening, आप जब भी कुछ बना रहे हो, to get the right valuation, you add the word tech. So it could be education tech, or it could be prop tech. It could be study abroad tech. And I think this tech gets sometimes too glamorized in the entire journey. And the genesis, if you have to do something in education, you have to truly believe, Biswa, that outcomes matter. And for outcomes to matter, you have to be education first. And therefore, we always call ourselves higher education company. So, I think that from the day one itself, higher education, lifelong learning, and workforce development ecosystem, but never been ed tech, because then tech gets too in the limelight, and ed gets slightly more less in the limelight. And that's why our focus has been only to call it as education company and not ed tech company, because that's the first starting point. I think startup it's been quite some time. I think we have been, बीच में 3 साल था, we were always linked in number one startup. And then we say 3 साल तक number one है. So then how are you a startup on a consistent basis? So my definition of a startup is that startup is a phase when you are trying to discover your business model and product market fit. और अगर आपका product market fit और business model हो जाता है discover, then you are building as an organization, as a company. How long will you get the benefit of calling yourself a startup? I think it's a good glamorized word, but sometimes behind the glamour, you have to open up the can and say, okay, this is the reality, boss. You're building a business, so you're building a business, and it's not a startup thing that everybody keeps on talking about.
गॉट इट, ऑसम। आई मीन जब तक आप लॉस कर रहे हो खुद को स्टार्टअप बुला सकते हो आराम से।
बट जब आप प्रॉफिट करोगे फिर तो आपका वैल्यूएशन ही गिर जाएगा ना.
लाइक वी आर कंपनी नाउ, नॉट अ स्टार्टअप।
Yeah.
एक बहुत ही ओवरऑल ब्रॉड क्वेश्चन, ऐसा क्या है फॉरेन एजुकेशन में जिसका इतना डिमांड बढ़ रहा है और हमारे लोग जा रहे हैं? और आपने बोला भी कि ईस्टर्न एजुकेशन वेस्टर्न एजुकेशन में फ़र्क है, सो जो भी आपके पॉइंट ऑफ व्यूज़ है थोड़ा सा बताएं, स्टार्टिंग विथ मयंक ऑफ
मैं
कोर्स।
बोलूँ? अच्छा देखिए, मतलब दिस इज़ अ मैक्रो थीसिस जो अभी रुकेगा नहीं. मतलब बहुत सारे रीज़न है. सबसे पहला तो है कि देखिए इनकम लेवल इन इंडिया इज़ ऑल्सो इंक्रीजिंग. सो एंड यू विल रियलाइज वन थिंग दैट फॉरेन एजुकेशन इज स्टिल वेरी एस्पिरेशनल. लाइक घर पे बोलो कि लड़का बाहर पढ़ के आ रहा है, इट्स अ वेरी डिफरेंट सॉर्ट ऑफ दिस थिंग. सो एज इनकम लेवल राइजेस, पीपल aspire for foreign education, which was not the case, let's say 10, 15, 20 years back. And slowly sort of that is driving one big force. दूसरा है कि इंडिया में ना हाई क्वालिटी एजुकेशन सीट्स आर नॉट इंक्रीजिंग एट द पेस एट विच अफोर्डेबिलिटी इज इंक्रीजिंग. So while I know that a lot of IITs have opened up, etc., but the number of seats are limited in the good quality sort of ecosystem, and therefore a lot of people want high quality education, and therefore foreign education sort of comes in. The third thing that is happening is that internationally, unka birth rate gir raha hai. So the number of people coming into the college education is declining. So the universities there have to rely on international students to attract more sort of students coming there. So that's another sort of macro thematic which is driving it. The fourth point is वहाँ पे जो government funding थी, that's cutting down. So government is not spending on education. Just to give you a context, Australia, education is the third largest export, or the largest export in which you do not have to dig soil. The first is I think
Mining.
steel and mining and coal, etc. So government funding गिर रहा है, so they again have to rely on international students, because international students pay a slightly higher ticket size than domestic students.
हाँ मतलब कुछ एक्चुअली when I asked the question, I also realized not a new thing.
Yeah.
Mahatma Gandhi also went
Mahatma Gandhi
to
also
London to study, and
Yeah,
Nehru also went, I think.
Everybody
to
went,
study.
yeah.
Everybody went.
Yes.
So it's
everybody went.
not like a very new phenomenon.
So in the entire thing, I did not use the word quality of education is better outside.
Okay.
My entire thesis is that there is capacity constraint, and there's capacity outside, and there is affordability, and everybody is going there. I would not say that India quality of education is bad than Bahar. I mean, there are some institutions that will have better, but you will get good quality education in India also. But the pace at which our demand is growing is very difficult to keep up with that pace.
Got it. But तुम बोल रहे थे कि ईस्टर्न और वेस्टर्न में फर्क है. Like that's something you believe in. क्या फर्क है? क्या दिखता है?
So I'll come to that point. Before that, I'll just answer what you asked, Mayank. Why are people going? Motivation क्या है? मेरे लिए I think it's very clear. There are two types of people. One is primary purpose is education. Second is primary purpose is migration, which take the education route. That is it. जिसका education है primary purpose, they also the final aim is to get a job, get a good ROI on what they are spending on, and that is what is the biggest driving factor for most of people. Better quality of life and better pay for the same kind of job. So most of them are doing that. Now I can tell you that if you're the moment any country reduces the post-study work visa, you'll see that immediately dip in the number of people going and studying there.
Sorry, क्या visa?
Post-study work visa, like you're going there to study on your student visa. After that, you get certain amount of time to stay back and work over there.
Okay.
So if you remove that part,
हाँ.
you'll suddenly see a drop in the number of students who actually go to those countries. So that is one big reason I feel. Again, second, what he said about aspirational thing, I think I agree with that. There are a lot of people for whom they have saved enough, which is increasing. Parents have saved enough for their kids, and उनके लिए aspirational है. So that is there. Third, I think is easy access has happened right now. Easy availability of funding, easy availability of information. Everything happens online. So all of that also has added, like पहले it would be like यार only this guy can go abroad. Now you've seen कि यार you're staying in, let's say you're in Bombay में कोई चौल में रह रहा है, उसने देखा कि उसका neighbor गया है 2 साल पहले, तो then suddenly you start feeling यार if he's going, even I can go. So that is another thing which has happened, and they've seen success stories. Again, social media पे you see, of course social media पे वो कोई नहीं दिखा रहा कि अगर you're doing your dishes or anything, everyone is showing that हम इधर घूम रहे, ये गाड़ी है, हुआ है, all of that. So all of those factors I feel are a strong motivation, along with what he said. Those are very good economic factors, but what I'm saying is कि वो supply side से कैसे लग रहा है, students how they are feeling, that is that. And Eastern Western में I'll compare. I think I would say यहाँ पे it is more of a, as I said, marks. अगर तुम्हें इतना marks आ गया, So you will get here. It's like a selection cutoff. This marks will entail you to do there. When I say Western, I would focus more on probably US. So US may the marks are only one part of your overall selection criteria. There is a lot of focus given on your complete profile about what have you done apart from your marks, what is your attitude towards your work, what you're doing. Could it be anything what you've done beyond your academic thing? All of those. Also, one big difference is the way the universities are structured. Like if you look at any of the research university in the US, the university does not exist only for students. यहाँ पे the university is so that students can study.
Got it.
वहाँ पे the universities are existing. One big aspect is research that is happening. The research के लिए there are those professors. To keep the professors busy, keep them helping, students are also there. So all of those things are given equal importance. And you will see that the amount of funding that they receive, they can try all these things. Then that is where the professors have a lot of say in whom they want to have in their cohort.
Correct.
Which here is not that decentralized. So that I think is one big difference. Marks is going to be my main thing, that marks are very, very core to our system, whereas marks is one of the aspect of your education there.
Got it. Awesome. तुमसे थोड़ा सा डिफरेंट तरीके से पूछूंगा. तुम बोल रहे थे कि तुम जाना चाह रहे थे, तो क्यों जाना चाह रहे थे और फिर गए नहीं, तो क्यों नहीं गए?
So I think for me, going there was mostly like, I would say, the same herd mentality कि यार वहाँ पे जाके, I mean, at least from my circle, people have grown a lot in terms of their career. Because in terms of opportunity, there is still a gap. In terms of, we can debate कि quality में इतना, difference है या नहीं है. I would say perceived quality में difference है. Probably in India, people might see that, the education that you are getting there, because they are linking it to their future career opportunities, कि वहाँ पे better है. And that's a difference. But again, I think the other thing is in terms of, let's say, the new age tech, companies and all, the ecosystem in the US is larger. So probably for me, that was like a factor key. Probably I'll go there, do masters, and then, I'll probably get a job there.
तो कितना सैलरी बढ़ जाता है वो करने? तुम फ्रेशर थे, हाउसिंग में काम कर रहे थे.
Yes.
अगर जाके कर लेते यूएस में, तो कितना तुम्हारे सैलरी जंप कितना हो जाता?
I think like in US, the standard tech salaries are like 120K, 100K is starting.
You were applying in what, 2014, 2016? 2015. So that time, I think 100, like if you're, again, depend on which state you're. If you're going to be in California, New York, easily 110.
Easily baseline, like 120. And it was also about the growth.
उस समय का 60 लाख अब 80 लाख, 60 का 80 हो गया.
Yes.
Exchange rate भी.
हाँ.
Yes.
Got it.
So
मतलब वो बहुत बड़ा जंप है.
Yes.
जो
but even if you match it with parity, ठीक है, I will not compare directly के इधर का 6 लाख और you are getting there 60-70 lakh, but even then it would be higher. It would be equivalent to getting a 20 lakh job here.
Yes. So that was a major factor. And then the other thing is in terms of growth and the kind of role that you want. क्योंकि वहाँ पे, I mean, the sort of things that you're working on is more cutting edge. I'm saying now India's caught up a lot, but back then, still you would get some opportunities which were not existent in India. So I think that was a major reason. And for me, stepping, not sort of pursuing that was more from that entrepreneurial urge कि यार यहाँ पे रह के कुछ बनाना है, right? And I think that I figured was much more important and much more, that was passion for me. Rather, this was like कि हाँ, this is a set path. And this is what other people are doing, so I should also do that. But probably what I discovered is that is not my passion, and my passion is something like building something of my own.
तो किस स्टेज पे रियलाइज किया? अप्लाई कर दिए थे कि कब?
So apply, I was almost about to do that, but उससे पहले this happened, and we just like hacked together a website, and वहाँ पे we started seeing a lot of traction coming in. हमने 3-4 Facebook groups ही बना लिए थे where they were like 10-20,000 students also signed up. So इससे काफ़ी validation आ गया कि यार अच्छा, there is something to it. And obviously, when you're doing something, you have to make ends meet as well. It cannot be like कि, you're doing something, you're getting validation, but, there's no source of income. You have to survive. And so that was also coming in. So I think all these aspects combined, it made us time conducive to actually pursue this for 2-3 years. And I would say, I think the start was something that took, I think, a leap of faith. But once we started, I think things started happening organically and automatically, and we somehow, figured out the way. Coming back to the other point, which I think Sumit you also mentioned is, I think there is one more aspect which is relevant to a study abroad is the status factor. Today as well, I mean, there is this colonial mindset where I won't say like students who are going there to pursue excellence, or who are going there to maybe do some PhD or research, or who are going for, let's say, working in companies. I think there is a different segment as well of students that apply, where for them studying abroad is seen as a status symbol कि बच्चा बाहर से पढ़ के आया. And now no matter like if the person comes back home, maybe doesn't work there, it is just like a ठप्पा आपके पास लग गया कि यार I've studied it outside, right? So that is still existent. I would say that is like an old mentality that is coming down, and probably going ahead that would be lesser, but still that is existent in a large part of India.
कितना पैसा लगता है ये जाके बाहर पढ़ाई करेंगे ऑन एवरेज, या फिर इट वेरीज अ लॉट? एनी ऑफ यू कैन टेक दिस.
So it varies a lot, depends a lot on the location, the course that you're going. There are courses, for example, in US, if you're going to top Ivy colleges and doing MBAs or engineering colleges, it can cost upwards of maybe ranging from 40-50 lakhs to even 1 CR for that course, like per year basis.
Easily.
And then if you're doing some basic courses, 1 year, there are short term courses as well that can range from even 10-15 lakhs per year to maybe 20-25 lakhs. So really depends on the course, the location, combined. And then this is the sort of the core the education fee. Apart from that, there is the other expenses as well. So roughly if you're going outside, 50% of your cost would be towards the education, 50 to 60% depending on the location, and the rest would be the other stuff in terms of your rental cost, in terms of the other costs like living expenses, travel, food, everything else included.
तो कैसे फंड करते हैं स्टूडेंट्स? ये लोन लेते हैं?
Majority, a lot of people take loan. I think India is a market which is meant for masters. Undergrad बहुत छोटा है इंडिया में. इंडिया से बहुत लोग अंडरग्रेड के लिए जाते नहीं है, एंड इंडिया से लोग जो जाते हैं वो वहाँ रहने के लिए जाते हैं. दे डोंट वांट टू कम बैक. सो
At undergrad level?
no, undergrad, postgrad, across this thing, Chinese used to go to study and come back. So Chinese students used to go and then study and then come back, but Indian students would just go and whatever, settle down there. And therefore loan becomes a critical part, because they have to also repay that dollar amount back from there, and therefore coming back to India does not make sense. And usually loans are very now widely available. I think from multiple places loans are very widely available. I think अगर आप देखोगे करीबन 30 से 50 लाख आप पकड़ो साल का, 30 से 60 लाख साल का होगा जो लगेगा, including living and everything else, and then 2-year course will be whatever 60 to 1 crore in that zone. So people are sort of taking loans, going abroad, studying, settling there. They all say मैं 4 साल 5 साल काम करके वापस आऊँगा. कोई नहीं आता. Majority they don't come.
Given an option.
It is a mindset before going that I will come back. But once you land there, you don't come back. I mean, that's the reality. And I was remembering when he said 2005 mein I had a MS leading to PhD admit from the US university. और फिर मैंने बोला नहीं जाना, इंडिया में रहना. Then for the last 15 to 18 years, I've been telling my wife this is the decade of India. So I've been fooling her to say that look, it's the decade of India, which is turning out it to be. Pretty true. So I think every time she said, okay, let's think of what you want to do outside India. I said, no, this is a decade of India. This is a decade of India. So 2010 में मैंने एक बार बोला, फिर 2020 में बोला, अभी 2030 में फिर से बोलूँगा मैं. So this is the decade of India. But actually, in true sense, there's huge opportunity for building something in India. So I do believe that as India sort of becomes sort of much more developed, a lot of study abroad students will come back to India. And I think that flow will start happening over a period of time. But today, as we sit today, they go, they settle down, they fund their education.
But both are not exclusive. Both of them are happening together itself, I feel. Because as you're developing, your disposable income is also rising, which can fund these aspirational educational things. Like if you, like again, compare it with China, I think that's the same thing.
So उसके लिए मेरे को $10,000 per capita पहुँचना. If we hit $10,000 per capita, then we are good.
$10,000 मतलब इंडियन में कितना होगा?
8 लाख रुपया.
8 लाख पर एनम. जब हम पर कैपिटा हिट कर जाएंगे तब.
At a country level.
कंट्री लेवल राइट.
Right
तो
now
अभी कितना है?
27. फ्रेशर को भी नहीं मिलता.
अभी $2,500.
25 4x करना है.
The moment it happens, you will see a very different India.
So how, the funding you're saying, so when students come to us, we tell them there are 4 ways: scholarships, assistantships, loans, your parents' money. सिंपल. फर्स्ट वन इज फ्री, तो बहुत मैटर्स है, बहुत कम लोग को मिलने वाला है. So
Scholarship.
if you depend only on scholarship, this growth is not because of scholarship. Free money was always there. वो बहुत कम लोग को, वो तो महात्मा गांधी के टाइम से चल रहा है. That small scholarship वाला, that doesn't make. Assistantship is when like these are, most of them are postgrad students. So if they are getting assistantship, once they land, after they're able to win the trust, they'll get some work at the campus. तो उसमें थोड़ा offset होता है. Again, it is not a full free ride नहीं है. You have to pay some amount for it. Then comes the loan part. Loan right now also, I think loan has been much easier right now compared to what it was probably a decade back. I think
much easier now.
Much easier.
कौन द बैंक देते लोन?
Yeah, no, and NBFCs have like so many specialized education NBFCs have opened up, who are
some have only dedicated books on international education, so dollar denominated loans, etc. So they just work and offer that, and that's why that the loan ecosystem in India is far superior. अभी आप यही चीज go to Africa and check it out. It is in such a bad shape that students cannot even give the block amount, and that's why we should feel fortunate that there's enough scope that that ecosystem has developed quite a lot.
Yeah.
तो कितना इंटरेस्ट होता है लोन पे?
वो अभी डिपेंड्स ऑल्सो ऑन द,
बट जनरली कितना साल लगेगा काम करके उसको रिपे करने में?
I think 3 to 4 years may people can, sort of be after
education
that has
fundamental
changed a
hoता
bit.
है.
I feel when if I was to go back to 2011, probably when we were graduating, the kids who had gone that time, if they had taken loan at the same rate of interest, it would have taken them 1 to 2 years. Now it will take them 3 to 5 years. Again, depend on where do they go, and because salaries have not shot up as much as tuition, because even universities have realized this is a nice good income that they're getting. Not this is not federally funded, completely funded by students, so they are charging also higher. So that has gone higher, and salaries have not shot up as much as.
तो एजुकेशन में बहुत सिंपल फार्मूला होता है. आप जितना पैसा खर्च करते हो, आपका सैलरी उसका आधा होगा या 1/3 होगा, मतलब whatever. It's like you can recover the cost of education with 2 years of salary or 3 years of payback. So you take 2 years to cover the education cost with the loan, etc. By the time 3rd and 4th year hits, you are able to sort of repay the entire thing. But having said all of these things, right? I mean, all the good things about study abroad. The other point that बहुत clearly हम लोग को देखना होगा कि यार देखो, there's a lot of these small mom and pop stores who are sending kids abroad, and that's where a lot of times you end up sending them to wrong institutions, and that is equally dangerous, because in the sort of herd of people going abroad, sometimes people land up and बोलते बिल्डिंग एक ही है, 2 आदमी आते हैं, मेरे को कुछ मिलता नहीं है वहाँ पे, which is similar things that happened in Indian universities earlier. I mean 2008, 9, 10 जब universities एकदम बिल्कुल started sort of coming up, you do see these bad practices also coming in. So I think that's another thing that one needs to be very clear about, that because university को पैसा दिखता है, and then any agent will send this thing, and therefore you need people who are much more legitimate, much more serious, much more clearly looking at the fact that once you go there, people will find job. They were to the point that if study abroad drops, for example, what he said, that study abroad कम हो गया, post study work visa नहीं मिला, then Indians will stop going abroad for education. But Indians will go abroad. I mean, if not this, they will go by the donkey route, and they will find a way to reach there, and those phenomena will happen. But the quality of education is something that all the ecosystem players have to play a very clear role, because the moment quality drops, there's going to be repercussion, and the industry will take a hit. And that's where a lot of sort of people are putting a brand out there. They're working hard on ensuring that they're finding the right outcome, because for all the good things, there are also the sort of not so good things happening in the ecosystem, which is something what needs to be careful about.
And to add to this, like, if there are certain restrictions that the countries might have, ki post-work visa, a certain country has, sort of taken a harsh stance on, but the overall, ecosystem, or the countries are so many that probably if one is restricting, the other will open up, because it's a dhanda. If you
Trump आया, then US went, UK went up, Canada went up. Canada ने भी बंद किया, तो अभी UK और Germany बढ़ रहा है. Germany थोड़ा गिरेगा, Australia बढ़ेगा.
So for an Indian student perspective, it is मुझे बाहर जाना है. The person is not saying मुझे US जाना है या फिर मुझे UK जाना है. They're like, I'll go anywhere where it's the typical countries that we talk about. And for these countries, it's like, for universities, they can really push on, if they increase, let's say, their commissions, then they can skyrocket the admissions that they're getting from, countries like India. And if, let's say, one country takes a stance ki, we are taking a very harsh stance on immigration, the other country will try to open up.
Yeah.
And
Talent
for
चाहिए
them,
लोगों को.
yeah.
Talent
And
to
for
check.
them, it's like, as Mayank mentioned, for Australia, it's like the third largest industry which is out there. It's a large sector which generates a good sizable income for these universities. So that's how, at an overall level, if you see the composition of, these students going to different countries from India changes, and it changes every 2-3 years, and it changes massively. But
Got
at an aggregate level, it is constantly increasing.
Got it. Okay.
But this
Got
has to be sustainable. The problem again here,
Yeah.
what is saying that one country opens up or other country closes up. Most of these countries are where they're attracting the wrong kind of people. Again, pushing with increasing the commissions or changing some points, some laws, something like that over there. So students have to be very careful of what is their route that they're looking at. Like how are they going to pay back? What is the most important point is going to be how are they going to pay back? How are they going to get absorbed into the workforce over there? That is very important, and that's what the countries don't look at. Oh, khali Australia, this is the third largest exports, right? But then what do those students do after going there? You're expecting them to pay full fees and come, and then you expect them to go back after finishing the education. And what does that person do with that degree diploma? What do they do after that? If they're not able to earn back in AUD. So that is very important. And there I feel students have to be very careful of what they are applying to. Again, so when you asked me, कि पैसा कैसे बनाते हो? We are one of the few people in the industry who charge the students. Because we tell them it's aligned with you. तुम कहाँ जाना है हम तुम्हें help करेंगे to go to anyone. Even if you're going to Stanford, Harvard, they're not going to ever pay any commission. But we'll help you there because we know that's the right place for you to go. And students have to think from that way. So that crowd which is there now, which is looking at all of this, that is constant. That is not dipping. Even in the Trump era, if you see, that number of people who are going to those kind of places was always constant. And every country wants those kind of good people to come who are a great asset to their university, to their country. So the up and down happens. A lot of people are the ones who are saying यार इधर से नहीं तो उधर से कैसे भी हम जाएंगे वहाँ पे. If you make it easy for them to go through legally, they'll go through it legally. If you are making it tightening the noose, then they'll find some other
Find the way out.
Yeah, they'll find a way. So
एजुकेशन ना थोड़ा आधा लोग इसको म्यूचुअल फंड की तरह देखते हैं, आधा लोग इसको इंश्योरेंस की तरह देखते हैं. मुझे अगर 100 रुपया दिया है तो 200 मिलना चाहिए मेरे को. दैट्स अ म्यूचुअल फंड रूट. सम पीपल लुक एट एज एन इंश्योरेंस रूट दैट कभी कुछ खराब हो गया तो ये तो है मेरे पास. लाइक द फैक्ट दैट यू कैन शो ऑफ एंड यू आर देयर. आई मीन आई एम फॉरेन एजुकेटेड. सो आई थिंक if the mutual fund ecosystem, which is largely the driver of education, that is an ROI product. Education is not higher education specifically is not an insurance product. So because higher education is an ROI product, अगर ROI धीरे धीरे करके नहीं निकलेगा, then people started making it very difficult for people to find and go back to the same place again and again. And that's where good quality education coupled with good quality outcome is very super critical for higher education internationally. अगर वो दोनों चीज़ होता है, then it will become like mutual fund. Other will become like insurance, and which people will take. This will have to be forced sold over a period of time.
Got it. Amazing. Now, how do you like? Most of your target audience is a student, right? So how do you?
It's master, so a lot will be even working adults.
Okay.
Because वो 2 साल काम करने के बाद work at IT services, Infosys, TCS, Wipro, etc. And then they may want to go abroad after studying, having some, like for example, when he was looking at it was after you worked, right? Or
Yes. So probably
1
like early youth, like probably when a person is 10 maximum
20s, I
10
think
years
20s
into
में
their
जाते
career.
हैं.
Yeah.
20s
is the ideal spot.
Got it. तो आप upgrad तो you even do skills upgrading, right?
Yeah.
So it's similar target.
So what we do is we basically teach them 1 year online in India, and then we send them abroad.
Okay.
So that instead of paying for 2-year education, they have done 1 year subsidized because it's online, and then when they land up there, then it's on campus. So instead of paying, let's say 60 lakh plus 20 lakh, 30 lakh of stay, 90 lakh, they will be able to do it 45 lakh for 1 year and 5 lakh for first year, which is online. So for them, suddenly the cost comes down by about 40-50% broadly. So that's the model that we use, wherein a lot of people might come and do the online and say, okay, इसके मुझे बाहर नहीं जाना है. Some people will come and do an online and say, okay, now I still want to continue going abroad because online के बाद मुझे बाहर जाना ही है. So we run that model, which is essentially a pathway model to say, whatever that you study, you will get those credits, and those credits will be accepted by international universities abroad. And Therefore, you don't have to do the full 2-year masters, but you can do a 1-year masters, etc.
So ये 1 year master जो ऑनलाइन होता है उसमें प्रोफेसर्स कौन रहते हैं, मतलब टीचर्स कौन रहते हैं?
Professors will be either their faculty professors, or we work with multiple Indian universities, some IITs, IIMs,
Got it.
triple ITs, etc. So their credits get accepted by those universities. So in some way, the learner gets a India brand plus an India education, and then converts them into international. So उनके लिए time कम हो जाता है, पैसा कम हो जाता है, stay cost कम हो जाता है, but they still get the same post-study work visa sort of benefits, which otherwise they would get by going directly also.
Got it. दोस्तों, ये एपिसोड जो आप देख रहे हो, इस तरह के और बहुत सारे एपिसोड्स आने वाले हैं. सीख सीख के ज्ञानी बन जाओगे, लेकिन उसके लिए आपको सब्सक्राइब करना पड़ेगा, नहीं तो अगला एपिसोड आएगा पता ही नहीं चलेगा आपको. इसलिए अभी वीडियो को पॉज करो, सब्सक्राइब बटन दबाओ, बेल आइकॉन दबाओ, वापस आके वीडियो को अनपॉज करो. ऐसा नहीं कि पॉज करके चले गए, ठीक है? क्योंकि हमारा सेल्स मार्केटिंग पॉडकास्ट है, तो आप अपना सेल्स कैसे करते हो? लाइक हाउ डू यू इज इट थ्रू कम्युनिटी? हाउ डू यू रीच आउट टू द स्टूडेंट्स दैट आर गोइंग अब्रॉड? हाउ डू यू मार्केट योरसेल्फ? कैसे करते? तुमसे स्टार्ट करते हैं.
Yeah. So for us, like, students may not, what we have discovered or, figured out over the years, ki student is a very interesting audience where the network effects are very inbuilt. Because students as a community, agar aap compare karte ho with any other, segment or audience group out there, students are perhaps the most connected to each other. Like, even in today's world, now more in today's world with, all of these social media platforms, they are part of some group, right? If I talk about education to be specific, there are students who are, let's say, part of the same batch. I think, you and I would be part of some, Facebook group that was formed during college a particular batch, right? And probably we are in touch with, let's say, friends who are from the same hostel or friends who are from the same department. So student के साथ बहुत interesting चीज़ क्या है ना कि they are part of a very strong network. And if, let's say, you are solving one, problem for a particular student, that spreads like wildfire. If that student circulates or, maybe tells their friends, if they post on their group, so you'll get 10 more students. So that's a very interesting thing. And that's how, the initial growth happened at Amber. We didn't do any paid marketing as such, because all of these, students that we are marketing to were like in groups. And, it was just about tapping these groups. And if you're able to obviously solve their pain point and make sure that, it's solving a real problem for the student, without even telling them, they'll bring on 10 more of their friends. So that is, I think, a very, sort of good thing about student. And in fact, if you look at a lot of large, companies like, the new age companies like Facebook, they started from universities because that's where they got their very strong initial network effect without spending a lot. I think that's what we also experienced. And that's why initially we ran a lot of Facebook groups. We ran a lot of WhatsApp groups. We, did a lot of content marketing and community and all of that. So that's where, we acquired users. Now, in terms of the process, when you talk about, let's say, this entire process, if you talk about, although we don't do study abroad consulting or counseling, but even with respect to housing, it's a large, decision that you make. In terms of monetary value, in our case, it's roughly a $10,000 transaction that you do. And if you have to put that in perspective, that is essentially like buying a car, right? For an Indian person, that's like buying a car.
$10,000 में कितना हो गया?
8 लाख रुपए.
8 लाख, okay. Next one खरीद लोगे तुम, ठीक है?
So it's like buying a car, and for that they would, they cannot buy that कि यार अच्छा मैंने credit card swipe कर दिया Amazon पे और चलो purchase कर
तो $10,000 2 साल का लगता है.
So that's for 1 year.
एक साल
This is housing cost that I'm
रहने
talking
का ही
about.
खाली है.
खाली रहने का 8 लाख लगता है.
That is a rent.
और 22-25 लाख 30 लाख लगेगा एजुकेशन.
Education.
मैं illiterate रह के खुश हूँ भाई.
Vishwa is thinking Bombay is not that
Yeah,
expensive.
it's not that expensive actually. हाँ तो 10,000 लगता है.
Yes.
फिर
So
बॉम्बे में तो जाएगा 8 लाख रुपए. 8 लाख मतलब महीने का तो.
हाँ, and this is per
But
person.
this is sharing.
Yeah,
This
per
is
person.
not
Yeah, this is
sharing. This is not your.
No, this is per person
हाँ
cost.
वही बोल रहा हूँ.
This
This
is per person cost. So it's like getting a single room जहाँ पे एक बेड है, एक single बेड है, और maybe attached toilet है, और बस that's it. And kitchen वो सब maybe साथ में कहीं. It's like a hostel. So that's the cost there. Now imagine like, for an Indian student, they cannot take this decision कि जैसे Amazon पे जाके कुछ purchase करते हैं. They would want some, they want a lot of details. They want to educate themselves, and only then they make a purchase. Now what we figured out over the years, starting में तो इतना product नहीं था, so we didn't have a content. So everything happened through a very manual process where, our team had to explain the student that this is right for you. This is, the different options available. Although right now we are driving a lot through product, where in the product itself, for example, when I talk about the accommodation use case, for every property that we have, we now have a lot of data pointers. Considering हमारे case में, it's not a hotel room that you're booking. It's not a 3-4 day का stay. It's roughly a 1 year का stay that you're looking at. And we have students who are coming and asking कि यार वो mattress का size कितना है, cupboard में कितने rows हैं, right? Table का dimension क्या है?
Students directly take for 1 year. They don't
they
try for month or
no. It's not possible. The tenancy is not there. The accommodations are built as such कि उनको 1 साल का ही rental करना है. They don't want to get into कि यार custom वो बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है fill करना. So for a long-term rental use case, the amount of information which is required per listing is 10x of a hotel booking, because it's a large, you're living there for 1 year. You want to look at every small parameter which is out there. So I think over the years, we have made sure that product side say, it is there. We want to give a similar experience of, let's say, booking.com. Although we know that it won't be as seamless as कि booking.com में आपने click किया और आपने book कर लिया, because you're booking for a long-term stay. But idea is to get as closer as that. But in our case, I mean, there'll always be a set of students that would require some sort of assistance or support rather. I won't say sales, but like sort of a support. And that's what we actively do, and that's obviously part of the business, and that's something that is very crucial for this.
Got it. So network effect से तुमको बहुत मदद भी मिलता है.
Yes, that's on the acquisition part, and probably I would say on the trust building part as well, because if as a brand if I'm marketing to someone, rather if a student who booked is marketing, that's essentially a referral, and वहाँ पे trust baked in है उस customer के साथ. So that's obviously the best form of marketing that can happen.
Got it. Amazing. How do you target your audience?
Our community has been the biggest catchment for us. So I think we've been lucky that we first had community and then we started with our products sales jo bhi tha. So, and that community has been strong network effect. So that's been very good for us, because as he said, one student tells other. For us, it is always that once you want to do this, whom do you reach out to? It's always going to be someone who has already gone. जो जा चुका है, your senior or someone, वो हमें invariably will say, यार go to this website, वहाँ पे you will find something. So that has worked very well for us. So community wise, so we get good number of students. Now in this problem for selling the service that we have, our counselling service, the biggest thing is that explaining the value to the student. Because everything goes fine, तुमको लग रहा है कि सब right ही होने वाला है. The thing is that till you actually don't go through the grind, you don't know how difficult the process. As I said, that Western application, you have to do a lot of things. You have to prepare for SOP. You have to select the universities. 4,000 higher education institutes are there. You have to come down to 8 or 10. How do you apply which ones to go to? How do you go through the process for each one? SOPs, LORs किधर से लेना है, किसके पास से?
LOR क्या होता है?
Letter of recommendation.
और SOP?
Statement of purpose.
एक पर्पस देके जाना होता है.
That
बिना पर्पस नहीं जा सकते ऐसे ही. अरे भाई सीखने के लिए जा रहे हैं, पर्पस नहीं पता है.
that is something you have to write it down, and people don't realize all of these things till they actually go through the grind.
Sorry, GR भी लिखना होता है.
Yes, many of them have like GRE again for US.
For engineering courses, masters.
No, others also, but like a lot of them have started making it very optional, and so it's not there. But some of them.
तो पर्पस कैसा रहता है एक जन का?
अभी मास्टर्स के मतलब अगर अंडरग्रेड के लिए है तो यू आर अ बिट मोर ओपन अबाउट कि तुमने क्या किया है अब तक लाइफ में और तुमको लाइफ में क्या करना है, एंड you don't have to be so academic. But when it is a master's thing, then you're applying to that specific program. So you have to show why you are going to be the best fit for that. मतलब तुम समझो डेटिंग के लिए जा रहे हो और तुमको एक अटेम्प्ट है तुम्हारा प्रोफाइल भेजने को उसको कि why I should be selected in your university.
तुमने भी तो मंगाया था इसके स्टेटमेंट ऑफ पर्पस टू जॉइन द पॉडकास्ट. व्हाई शुड आई टेक यू इन द पॉडकास्ट?
यस. सो ऐसा पर्पस क्या रहेगा, मतलब कि लोग क्या रहेगा वो तो छोड़ो, लोग लिखते क्या हैं?
बहुत कुछ लिखते हैं, मतलब
गलत भी लिख के आते हैं, तुम ठीक कर दो.
बकवास भी लिखते हैं. एंड नाउ द थिंग इज दैट द यूनिवर्सिटीज हैव आल्सो स्टार्टेड, काफी टाइम्स वो लोग रोज डे इन डे आउट दे सी दिस थिंग, सो दे हैव स्टार्टेड इट. सो
व्हाट आर सम कॉमन मिस्टेक्स?
कॉमन मिस्टेक्स तो यार गलत यूनिवर्सिटी का नाम लिख देने का, लाइक दैट इज द स्टूपिडेस्ट मिस्टेक है यार. कॉमन मतलब एक का बनाया तुमने, वही सब कॉपी पेस्ट करके सबको लिख दिया. That is the common. I'll tell you one interesting anecdote. I was sitting with one of the admission committee, and that person was telling me that we used to take a letter of recommendation very seriously. But then after a point, we started seeing कि यहाँ से आ रहा है, इतना solid profile है इसका, everyone is coming with this thing. We used to always think that we have a next Einstein coming to our university, because यहाँ पे, and this is a big problem, many of the students write it themselves, get it signed from the professor, which is not the way it is to be done. The professor has to write. It's, in fact, LOR is one of the only place where you can in fact put in your areas of improvement, which looks genuine. And all of these parts are important when you're applying to a good university. तो ये सब स्टूडेंट्स को नहीं पता होता है कि क्या ये गया, मैं भी चले जाऊँगा, कर लूँगा. So that is where the sales is different. So our approach is consultative. We go through it, understand the profile of the student, explain to them that how we will help you with this thing. Many of them think यार ये क्या है, ये तो हम भी कर ही लेंगे. The thing is, most of them will come to us once they start. The first, जैसे statement of purpose में क्या लिखना है, the moment that comes, रात को बैठे 12 बजे, now you are getting anxiety. कि इसमें तो आ नहीं रहा कुछ लिखने का, ऑनलाइन ढूंढा, कुछ ऑनलाइन लेके कॉपी करके डाल दिया, देन दे रेड समवेयर के प्लेजरिज्म किया, तो फिर यू विल बी सेंट बैक आल्सो, डिपोर्टेड. सो नाउ दे आर स्कैर्ड,
डिपोर्ट ही कर देंगे.
दैट इज रिसेंटली हैपेंड विद समवन हु हैड फेक्ड अ लॉट ऑफ
everything. They faked everything.
everything they
But
faked.
then he put it on Reddit also.
The stupidest
देखो
thing.
मैंने सबको बेवकूफ बनाया, मैंने ये भी गलत लिखा था, ये भी गलत था, ये भी
He
गलत था,
faked
ये
his
भी
father's
गलत था.
death also, something like that. Yeah.
So when you're applying, you have to tell a story. That,
Got
look,
it.
take me in because I'm very cool. I'm here. I want to be there.
Hmm.
This is the bridge, and your bridge is very good for me, and it is suited for me. So it's like a dating application. And then outside, like at least in the US, they don't look at your grades. Grades are very important, but grades is just one part of it, and there are 20 other things. So you have to show that in those other things, you're very good.
It has to be coherent. Grades have to be coherent as well.
तो अभी आज के टाइम में अगर आपको आईवी लीग भेजना है बच्चे को, and अगर आपका बच्चा मान लीजिए क्लास 8, 9th पे होता है, तो बहुत लोग तो अभी एनजीओ में डाल देते हैं. 4 साल तुम एनजीओ में काम करो, build your profile, and again for some people it is genuine interest, for some people it is forced. You start your own company when you're in class 10th or 12th, so you can show that you have this thing.
Very funny. वो क्लास 8 में आईआईटी कोचिंग में डाल रहे हैं, बच्चा लोग को एनजीओ में डाल रहे हैं.
वो मतलब
वो इधर का,
क्योंकि अभी आईआईटी में नहीं हो सकता ना उन लोग का, बहुत मुश्किल है अभी होना.
तो बहुत रेशियो ही बिगड़ गया.
The ratio is very difficult, so therefore that people have to sort of look at
एनजीओ में क्या करता है बच्चा लोग?
सब मतलब help the other kids.
no,
Wow.
it's generally transforming. Now, like suppose even if you were to just see, like some of these people are coming from very affluent backgrounds. ये लोग ने, they have not seen the struggles. So if you're probably being a part of even like one of the teaching things, teaching English to some of these
Like I
things.
will join Teach for India, so on and so
but
on.
that's
I mean, some places genuine, some places not so genuine. But again, and that's a journey.
Got it.
But that exposure, and that if that exposure sparks some curiosity, that goes in your essay. And that will tell you, okay, now I want to do economics because I saw this is the thing, I want to bring my country out of poverty.
Got it.
So again, coming back to sales, how ours is very consultative. It can't be. It's not like. And again, one big thing for Saurabh, what he said is, students को चाहिए होता है उस time पे. There's a small window. You know that now they want a housing. They have to do it. For us, it is that पहले तो most of them are preparing. मन में ख्याल आया, किसी को देखा that okay, let's see how to go to US. They'll start doing. They'll join Yocket. They'll see. And they're like, नहीं यार, अभी तो we are just thinking. So we have to help them understand how does the whole process look like. Even if the person is not going to join tomorrow, they're not going to apply for this intake, they'll apply after 2 years. So it's a very long journey for us many times. Some of them in fact are like first time बात किया हमसे, नहीं ये तो this is your charging doesn't make sense, we'll apply अपने आप, सारे के सारे reject लेकर आ गए. Next time then you increase your price, they'll pay that also, because they've now seen कि this is such a big decision. So there they pay. So for us it's been consultative approach. We go into depth with each one, explain what is the process, what do we sell, why we sell, why we are working this way. Then again our past students are the biggest
Got it.
ambassadors
And
for
the
us.
other thing that we're seeing is that, that's probably a very, buying behavior of Gen Zs is that it's becoming more DIY. Like one of the interesting thing that we see, at least in the international markets, like, let's say the domestic students in US, because they also book with us, domestic students in UK also book with us. The Gen Zs there, they don't want to talk to someone. They're like, they feel uncomfortable talking to someone over phone. So they're like, here, I'll go through if you have an app or if you have a, platform. This is, something which is very specific to accommodation. would more prefer that they can just view it on the website or the app, and they'll just complete the transaction there itself. Or rather, if they want support, they are like कि chat पे हम support कर लेंगे, we can talk over chat, but they are not very open to talking on phone or call. So probably that call-based sales, I think that's something probably declining, at least for our industry.
That depends also on what is the transaction for, right?
Yeah.
अगर product commodity सब पता है, ये जाना है मुझे, सब दिख रहा है, मुझे लेना है. Now ours is like a consulting thing. They need to understand a lot more into it. So there they would definitely want to talk. They will not do it as, in fact, like we started with that thing कि DIY करेंगे, सब कुछ DIY कर लेता है. But it's the other way around. They want to talk.
Right. So probably that thing is also there, that it's not there. I mean, for Indian students, they would want to, but I think what we are seeing on the outside on international markets, where students are like कि हमें खट बस आप एक बार बता दो कि ये process है, and we'll read it by our own. If we think that this is genuine, we'll go for it, and otherwise they would not want, because they don't pick calls. I mean, we have tried that experiment, but they don't pick calls. So I think that's one learning for us, but not applicable to all the markets.
Got it. upGrad has done like large scale ad campaigns and all of this. So what is your approach towards?
ये phases में होता है. When you're sort of when you're starting off, product matters a lot. The value proposition that you give, and maybe the word of mouth, etc. So that's the first level of growth, because वहाँ पे आपका hygiene बहुत strong होना ही पड़ेगा. Then comes a lot of work that you do in terms of outreach via digital platforms. So the Facebook, the Instas, and the Googles of the world. Google is different than Facebook, but again, it's
Demand
a black
already
box.
there.
It's a very black box thingy that which I have a bigger thesis on, which I don't want to get into. But Google is a black box and Facebook is a black box, but you put in money and you drive some growth, because a lot of people come and ask you a question, and then you have a pool of counselors who will counsel you. So we did that second level of growth for a long time back. Then the third level comes, which is when you are trying to establish, the first users have come, and you have to open up to get the next set of users. So in our case, it's not a traditional higher education study abroad. It is you study online and then you go abroad. So that's the time when you go slightly more above the line on television and sort of YouTube, and do ads and run sort of large scale ads, because that's the time you are creating the market. Now, having done that, I think right now we have come to a place that people understand the concept. Digital channels are working, and इस देश में अगर आपको beyond a certain threshold बढ़ना है, तो जो दिखता है वो बिकता है. So you will have to be present physically at various places, because people want to come to you for counselling. Parents want to come and show the certificate. Kids want to come and understand from a counsellor. So we have now set up a lot of these counselling centers pan India. So I think Bombay itself, we have about 10 odd centers, and then we have about 200 plus channel partners, franchisee partner, where people can walk in and get counseling. So I think if you look at the journey of scaling up, to your point on sales and marketing changes as you sort of start getting to a different kind of scale. But on the sales side, which is the final closure side, it is, I think, the four things that matters here. One is, it's a very long-term journey. It's not a one-time decision. It's not like सुबह उठा 2 minute का मैगी चाहिए, you sort of order and you get it. So therefore, consultative sale is important. That you have to hold the conversation for a 6 month, sometime for 2 years also, because the person has not yet decided. आज नहीं कल नहीं परसों, I'll go tomorrow. So it takes time, and therefore, whatever tool or CRM that sort of one uses, you need to have the historical conversation ready with you, so you can guide them much better. The second sort of broad piece is, it's a very premium ticket size investment decision.
अभी अगर टाटा नेक्सॉन बेच रहे, तो this is house.
Yeah, this is full house. I mean, you have to pay 30-40 lakh rupees. So I mean, you're paying that much amount of money.
Yeah.
So once the money goes there, then that trust has to be much more stronger.
Got it.
And you have to build that trust, not just with you as a learner, but with your parents, with your spouse, with your siblings. Everybody needs to come together and think, yeah, it's a good decision.
Got it.
So you need at sales level an ability to connect with different stakeholders. It's not just one. It's not customer consumer. Here, customer consumer are largely the same, but in some cases, parents fund it, so it
Also
differs.
influential होते थोड़े, मतलब like there is one mama or chacha in the family who is looked upon, तो उसका buy-in तो चाहिए तुम्हें.
I've had people coming to meet me here in my office saying that my son is going, will you please guide, what should we do in terms of programs? And they have driven down from different parts of the country, and they're sitting there outside with no appointment. They say, but I just want to talk, because they believe that if they talk to me, they will have better trust with the company and they can send. I
Wow.
think these things happen.
Yeah,
It's
this
because
happens.
it's a very, very strong, it's a significant decision. And the third aspect is that they need to know the ecosystem of university a lot more. I mean, कहाँ जा रहे हैं? अगर मैं मान लीजिए US में जा रहा हूँ, if I'm going to tri-state, I'm going to West Coast, I'm going to East Coast, मुझे वहाँ पे क्या करना पड़ेगा, कैसे मैं सेटल हो सकता हूँ, क्या टाइप का जॉब है, किस टाइप की ऑफरिंग मिलती है. सो देर इज़ अ लिटिल बिट ऑफ रिक्वायरमेंट टू टेक इट बियॉन्ड एजुकेशन, to talk little bit about careers and outcome. So that's the reason why sales get little bit more complicated. Marketing में you can sort of say there's a rule book. I mean, ये करो, ये करो, ये करो, ये करो, यहाँ पे पहुँच जाओगे. But sales get little more complicated because of ticket size, involved decision making, long-term sort of thought process, and the fact that it's not just school and university, but also the outcome. And that's why you require a slightly different caliber of counselors rather than sales guys, because it's not sales as such.
Someone who understands the process, because here there are a lot of decisions to be made. So you are helping them like make that framework of how to make that decision. It's not कि तुम ये एक इसमें चले जाओ. What is important to you? Okay, there will be everyone will have someone in some foreign country.
So fundamentally क्या होता है? पहला call you are 10% talking as a counselor. 90% other person is talking. Second call you get to 30% talking. The person is talking 70%. By the time you're to 5th, 6th, 7th call, then you're talking 90% and the person is talking only 10%. So it is a lot more listening to start with, and then it gets into consultative. But if you don't listen, you will not understand, because everybody has a different sort of dynamic to go to.
And so many variables involved. So many
Yeah.
variables that you have to actually profile the person properly to make sure that, okay, you're selling this the right product, right thing. And the pitch will also change according to what their purpose is to go.
Amazing. Sorry, one question I just remembered. अभी unfortunately the world is at war again. ठीक है, इधर भी वॉर चल रहा है, रशिया यूक्रेन, एंड इससे कोई फर्क पड़ता है इन द वेयर हाउ स्टूडेंट्स मेक देयर डिसीजंस एटसेट्रा?
थोड़ा फर्क पड़ता है, because जहाँ भी कुछ देखिए फ़र्क कब पड़ता है, अगर वॉर है या चेंज ऑफ गवर्नमेंट है. अगर आपका किसी जगह पे फार राइट गवर्नमेंट आता है एंड सॉर्ट ऑफ पुट अ कंट्रोल ऑन इमिग्रेशन, फ़र्क पड़ता है. I mean, you're seeing a change in government in the UK. I'm hoping that this is a more sort of open government, the new one. US, I mean, the change will happen, and again, it may be slightly tighter government. So when government change happens, there is an impact, and when there's a racial violence that's happening, which happened in Australia a couple of years back,
9
it does happen. अभी US में थोड़ा बहुत चल रहा है, which I think US is working. That also has an impact, because parents then don't want to send their kids to sort of those locations. And then last one is war, because in the war ecosystem, of course, people have an issue to send kids abroad. So I think geopolitical plays an important part in making it happen, and therefore you see government of India actually takes a lot of effort in creating a better ecosystem for Indians going abroad, and that's one of the tasks that Ministry of External Affairs does a good job of. That even in US, how they settle down, in Germany, how they settle down, in UK, how they settle down. I think those are important part that happens on an ongoing basis.
Got it.
I think geopolitical, if the country you are going to is getting bombed, of course, that will be there. But otherwise, there have always been these disturbances, like right from, if you start with the racial discrimination, Australia, 2009 types. There was that thing happening in Australia. Uske pehle, if you go, 2008 was the big recession, recession US. Then uske baad, I think 10, 11 types mein you had the dollar really rising up very quickly. Then you had Trump coming in. 2010 mein UK stopped the post-study visa. So these issues have always been there. It's just that, sentiments go crazy. Sentiments go negative. Immediately kuch thoda hoga. But then that resilience is there. People who have, it's not a knee-jerk reaction, because jaise students don't decide to go to these places on one fine day. तो वो ना भी ऐसे नहीं करते. They are planning for a year. तो उनके पास काफ़ी डेटा है, काफ़ी ट्रस्ट बिल्ड हो गया. इनफैक्ट कोविड टाइम्स में, दिस वाज सो मेनी टाइम्स आई वाज वेरी वरीड कि क्या होने वाला है. बॉर्डर्स आर शट राइट नाउ, नथिंग. But people held on to their offer letters. They waited, they went, and we saw some fantastic numbers you can see the visa numbers also. They were fantastic. So the geopolitical does I think make a big difference on sentiments rather than actual thing. Unless the laws make change, like जैसे UK में law पूरा ही change कर दिया उन्होंने, तो it make a big dip. But otherwise it's sentiments के ऊपर है, and that is where the trust again
And
the
the,
council.
anyways, the typical countries that students are going to, वहाँ पे probably it's more stable. I think where we are seeing these, happening is in very specific regions. So it's not like it's not coming. The war is not coming into their country.
Like US was at war,
Yeah.
but inbound कुछ problem नहीं था. They were in war at Afghanistan, Iraq, but inbound there was no issues there.
And the other thing, I think the major impact is on the economy side. I think inflation बढ़ जाता है, the cost of living, the cost of education, that's what hurts, right? Maybe because the student who's going from here is always on a budget. Like the general student is on a budget, and if inflation rises, that's what hits them. Rather than, I think immigration wala to we know कि there will be some other country that you can go to. There will always be a country that you can go to. So probably it's more around the cost side where it becomes costlier if there is some war happening.
Got it. Last question. What does the future look like of this entire industry and in specific? तुम्हारे company का future कैसा लग रहा है तुमको? Starting with Sumit actually.
So I think we discussed about the GDP per capita. I'm quite confident that that's going to definitely increase. And when that increases, the disposable income is going to increase, aspirations are increasing. We are finding a lot of people, like you can see the trend that earlier it used to be purview of only the people from South Bombay, South Delhi guys who are going abroad. Now you're seeing a lot of people from very different places. So I think this is just going to increase. And if you see the trajectory with the way China had, where parents have saved up for their kids, a lot of parents in corporates have amassed good amount of corpus just for their kids' education. So we're going to see a lot of it. I see that a lot more people will start sending their kids earlier as well. You will see a lot more quality consciousness coming in, where people would just send their kids to any place. वो नहीं होगा. They will get more involved. More educated parents who are there, who have seen their colleagues send their kids, so they will, that comparison start hoga, they will get more involved. You will start seeing people questioning more, but they'll send a lot more. So the industry is going to certainly be rising.
मैं तो बहुत दिन से इंडस्ट्री देख रहा हूँ. 2010 में हमारे यहाँ से 1 लाख लोग जाते थे, अभी 7.5-8 लाख लोग जा रहे हैं every year. In the next 2-3 years we'll hit 10 lakh students going abroad from India, which is a huge number. I mean 10 lakh लोग जाना is not a joke, just for studying abroad. So I think that trend, there are certain things in which you cannot fight the market. And this is one such market. You just cannot fight it. Like even what you try to do, disrupt it or break it and say, ye bhi kharab hoga, but people will find ways to sort of go abroad. So I think that macro thesis is super strong. If you ask me what do I see changing, I think number one thing that I see changing is that right now it's a lot more still MBA, Masters of Science and sort of engineering, etc. I do see it coming down, and we'll see a plumber, electrician, and that ecosystem also looking at abroad education, perhaps more for settling abroad and sort of better job opportunity. So it will go from white to grey and blue collar also in the study abroad ecosystem. The second thing I foresee personally is that there's going to be a lot more focus on outcomes, and people will look for outcomes a lot more. Today it is just about chale jate hain, fir dekhenge. But students, as the market gets more mature, see, when we were kids, there were only 2 kind of hair oil, either ye lena ya ye lena. Abhi to 50 kind of hair oil aate. So audience get much more nuanced. They want organic, smelling like this, raat ke liye, subah ke liye. And that's what will happen in this, that nuances will come and you will start asking outcomes and questions on outcomes and where people will do. And the third, I personally believe that a lot more people will start going abroad with the thought of coming back faster, because I think there will be opportunities in India that will sort of come up. So we'll see people going to study but coming back to work, which so far has not been a very big trend, but slowly we'll see that also happening. But net, I think there are certain industries which you don't fight. This is one such industry that you cannot fight for it to not grow.
Got it. Amazing.
आप शॉर्ट नहीं कर सकते उसको, यहाँ पे लॉन्ग ही रहना पड़ेगा पूरे टाइम पर.
Got it. Amazing. Sorry, तुमसे सेम सवाल है, बट उससे पहले तुम्हारी यूपीएससी का उम्र गया ना, तो ये चलाना पड़ेगा कंपनी. ये वाला नहीं छोड़ सकते. तो क्या लग रहा है फ्यूचर इसका?
मुझसे नहीं पूछा.
मेरा जूनियर है टेक लिबर्टीज.
So I
Same
think macro side pe to, it's almost what Sumit and said and Mayank said. I think the main thing there is the delta, like, the GDP that, currently we are at, and the delta from there in terms of the number of times that can grow will really be transformative in terms of, when we're building right now in this sector, and in fact in a lot of sectors. I think that disruptive, like 4x 5x jab per capita hoga, a lot of transformation will happen, and that will affect, growth of a lot of sectors, including, ours as well. That's, one larger theme that, we all are chasing. The other thing which, Mayank also mentioned is people coming back and people seeking job opportunities back in India. And I feel we all know it's India's decades. Probably in the next 2-3 decades, there'll be massive, value creation that will happen in India. And I think I've already started seeing signs where a lot of my friends who went, who are working there, they are comparing opportunities that they're getting in India in certain cities, and they're saying, hey, it's probably at the same level. I'm closer to my family. I'm in my, homeland. They have that nationalism feeling as well. I want to come back to India. So that is also happening. Probably that feeling was not there 20-30 years back. I think people who went there, they settled there. But I think with the current generation, which went there maybe a couple of years back, they now are having that thought, probably it makes sense for us to come back. And I think once that sort of thing happening, I think the brand India would get unlocked. And I think that's where a large set of growth can happen. I'm not talking about only this sector, but also in terms of, generally India growing out in the next few
this
decades.
is an important point. I don't want to miss out on that fact of nation building, that India mein, what is the biggest source that we have right now? We have few natural resources, but our biggest natural resource is people.
Yes.
And for us to be operate as a soft power or sort of even growing up, India has to become the talent capital for the world. And if India has to become the talent or skill capital of the world, the study abroad is going to be a massive thing. I personally believe that global economies will seek more and more talent coming from India because they are aging and they will not have enough sort of workforce available. And I think Indians have to take that very seriously, not as a brain drain, but as a fact that this will enable India to be positioned very differently in the ecosystem. And sometimes some countries play on shipping industry, some countries play on oil, some countries play on sort of industrial revolution, etc. India has to play on the skill revolution and talent revolution, because agar hum wo skip kar jayenge, so whatever we call demographic dividend will become demographic debt.
Yes.
And that's an important part in which study abroad plays a critical factor for creating the conduit for people to find right opportunities. And agar jate hain and they become the CEO of Microsoft, they become the CEO of Google, they become the head of some other companies, etc., it's only good for the country at the long run. And that's why I see this as a much more unstoppable force, but a very positive force for the country also in the long run.
Yeah, I don't think there is any point of even bringing nationalism into this at all, because the founding fathers of this country went abroad,
Everybody
and came
went
back.
abroad,
So it actually, if people are more educated, it benefits everyone. So that's amazing. Thank you so much, guys, for coming for this episode. We really enjoyed it. Hopefully, you guys also enjoyed it. Please show some love for our guests in the comment section, and like, share, subscribe, etc., etc. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
so
Thanks.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much.